Hi, welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show. This is an interesting group tonight. This is Cowboy Brian from Midland, Texas.
Yeah. He's an oil man.
He is.
Yes.
He's a man and there's oil on him.
There's an oil museum here, actually.
I bet there is.
Of course there is.
Exciting.
You're not going to find a latex museum anywhere around there, but oil?
No.
Yeah, I'd expect so.
Yeah.
Section's brought to you by P. Diddy. Okay, all right.
Jay's in Swinging Temecula, as always.
Swinging Temecula, as always. Just back from L.A., everyone. That's why we got the dirt on and the eyes are red, working in a warehouse. So
We got
that
Tom.
you can have fun.
Tom from Greater Los Angeles is hanging with us tonight. And it's me, as always, Brian.
From an undisclosed location.
From an undisclosed location.
Due to witness protection that we can't go into.
In Milwaukee. So, I was thinking about something the other night, and I thought it would be a real interesting question for Jay.
Yes.
Particularly, but I bet Brian may have something to say about this too. Perhaps Tom does. But when you think about musical artists,
Mm-hmm.
and when you think about who they are as a person, and the way they live their life and the way they've done things, and just, is there anybody out there that inspires you on a personal level? Like that you can kind of relate to, maybe, or you try to think to yourself, what would they do? You know what I mean?
It's funny.
Because, when I think, about making a decision, I ask, what would Jay Brannan do? But
and that's a smart move.
Yeah.
He would step back from the problem, maybe have a sip of water.
Right.
And then dive deep into it. It's funny this topic gets brought up because I mentioned, I won't say his name now. I'll say who it is, not on this, but there was someone I used to think of in that regard. Like, man, you know what? I think he makes really good decisions. Yeah. And then about a year and a half ago, it proved that he made a really terrible decision.
Okay.
So, I'm afraid he's no longer my guiding light of the music world.
Speaking of baby oil, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, just half of that. How's that?
Okay.
Cut that word in half and use the front.
Okay.
Boy, I don't see many of them letting you know publicly where they are privately to the level that you could say, they've really done it well. I think there's bits and pieces of people that you say, they're really good with their money, or they've made good decisions. We just talked about Steve Vai and Taylor Swift. Steve Vai is notorious for having a really good work ethic.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I would look at him and say, I have a problem, what would he do?
I was being sarcastic.
Okay, yeah, thank God, because I really
I was really trying to say, is there anybody out there that you feel like you can relate to? Like, is there anybody out there in music where you feel like, okay, I kind of see where they're coming from. I can relate to this person. That's what I was really trying to say, but I was being sarcastic.
You know what? I think I can relate to Joe Perry, who is, when I graduated back last century, we got our own page in our yearbook, and there's famously a picture of Joe Perry on it because I just idolized him. But here we are all these years later, and you look at his life, and it's like, yeah, he had his problems and all that. But, I mean, he's been married to the same woman for almost, I think, going on 40 years.
Yeah.
He's happy about what his kids are doing, and he seems to have done his work as a dad. And I just kind of think, like, he's getting older, but he's still like, hey, I think I got something left in the gas tank.
Right.
But I think so many people, the old expression is you should never meet your heroes.
Right. Yeah.
And I've met a few of mine, and it was really a regret because they really disappointed. Because you're expecting them to understand your excitement and passion for what they've given you. And to them, a lot of them, it's just a job.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of, I think, false persona they put out there.
Yeah.
The image they try to project versus who they really are. Yeah. I'm thinking about Prince. I mean, he was, who knows who he was? We don't know because he never told us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's still a mystery.
He was the facade. Brian, how about you? Is there anybody out there that you just can feel like, hey, you know, I kind of relate to that person musically?
Well, that's really hard.
I mean, you like a lot of stuff. You have a very diverse. What am I looking for? Just you like a lot of stuff.
Like a wide range of music too.
Well, exactly. You know, I think when I was young, when I say young, I mean that could have been anything, but no, I really thought a lot of people like Prince. I thought a lot of people like George Michael and David Bowie. I thought Bowie was like, you know, but that was a lot of style. That wasn't a lot of, you know, personal kind of stuff. When I really think about it and when I watch an interview with this person and I kind of hear their story and where they were coming from and even archive footage of this person when they were younger, the person who I look at and say, wow, you know what, I think this is a good guy and maybe if I were to try to be like somebody, this might be the person I might want to be like because he seems gracious and cool and humble, would be Paul McCartney. I'm thinking that's a genuinely good man.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah.
I think he stood by his principles. I mean,
yeah,
you realize...
I don't think we give facade.
No.
Paul McCartney.
He was arrested for pot.
Yeah. In Japan. Yeah.
Now, that was a big story, but I'll tell you what's a bigger story. In the entire time he was with his wife, Linda, those were the only nights they were apart.
Yeah.
That's a good man.
I heard a recent story, and I think I believe it was him telling it, where he was talking about the arrest. And he said that was a really good way to get out of Wings because I was done with it. And I really didn't want to do that concert anyway. So I kind of self-sabotage myself on that one. If I'm in jail, I can't do the concert. So, hey, let's dive. Yeah, let's just not do this anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you're in music, and I guess this is probably a Prince thing too, I didn't pay to buy Prince's albums to hear his politics.
Right.
I didn't buy his albums to really, and I mean, famously religious, but I don't think he made it the centerpiece. You know, your Michael W. Smiths of the world that are like,
well, yeah,
this is who I am and this is what I believe. And I respect anyone willing to speak their mind.
Yeah.
But I respect the artists who understand it's their job. Yeah. Like, their job is to entertain me when I show up at a show. I don't care who they voted for. That's why I think bands like Kiss did so well in their career, because it was just pure entertainment. Alice Cooper is still doing vaudeville in 2025.
Yeah.
It's the suspension of disbelief. You know, his head does not get cut off every night. It looks like it, but trust me when I say Alice's head is still on his body.
Alice seems like a good guy, too. He really
does.
Genuinely does seem like... I mean, you might, if you're not familiar with Alice Cooper, of course, his stage persona is Alice Cooper. It's kind of like a professional wrestling character almost. The best way I could describe it, the way he comes out in his clothes and his makeup and, you know, very satanic kind of thing or whatever.
And he speaks of Alice in the third person. Or the second person. Yeah, he talks about Alice, even though he's Alice.
Right.
But he speaks of him as, when Alice is on stage, and it'll come out of his mouth like that, and it's like, oh, he gets it. Yeah. He's an incredibly good golfer. He was best friends with Glenn Campbell. He was good friends with, like, all the old vaudeville, Groucho, and all those people.
Yeah, he was with Groucho when he was sickly, and he would go spend time with him.
He quit drinking in the mid-'70s and hasn't had one since, and he was the original, like, it's 9 a.m. Alice has already had 6 beers. Like, I mean, his stuff was legendary, but he just quit one day, and he's
Right.
famously very religious, but I don't think he's ever been be like me, believe what I believe. I think he just said, if you want to know what I do or how I do, this is the roadway I've taken.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought Glenn Campbell was much like that. I mean, he had his struggles at the end, but it's like, here's a guy that just grew up poor in the woods, started playing guitar, became arguably one of the greatest guitar players of our time, and just continued to entertain and understood his role.
Yeah, I don't know much about Glenn Campbell personally. But
he had his struggles. He had a terrible coke addiction. He married Tanya Tucker, which was tumultuous, a lot of fighting. So he definitely had his falls from grace. But like a lot of people, they get to a certain down level, they bottom out, and they find God, and they find other things, and they find golf and whatever.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, rock and roll's rock and roll. You're gonna do rock and roll stuff, especially if you're young, and all of a sudden you get all this money and this attention. You're gonna do rock and roll stuff, but then later on,
But that's an old.
If you survive it, oh, wait a minute. You know what? I've done it. I'm done. And I feel like guys like Paul McCartney, who knows what the Beatles were doing when they were young.
I think they were crazy.
I think they were, but not as crazy as like the Go-Go's, Oh,
they were insane.
They were nuts.
Yeah,
right. They weren't Go-Go's crazy or Motley Crue crazy. They were just poor young lad crazy. But
that all went away in the 90s, don't you think? I said, I think that all went away in the 90s. Like, the 80s kind of was the peak of, I don't remember that I have a student loan, a car payment, or a visa payment. I just want to go to this show and scream and yell and get crazy. And then all of a sudden the 90s rolled through, and it was like, oh, you got 10 visa payments and 5 school loans, and life sucks, and it's raining out. So I think that whole rock star, and that's why I think people, fondly talk about the days of the rock star. Like, not to hijack, but can you name someone today that you think is a rock star?
Lenny Kravitz, but he's getting older. I mean,
but that's exactly.
Axl Rose. I think of this like, oh my gosh, Dave
older.
Older than me.
Yeah, 100%.
Not younger than me. I can't think of anybody. I will say that I feel like that the decadent thing that we're talking about, the rock star lifestyle, I think a lot of that went hip hop, and they're doing that now.
Yeah,
and they're living the life of excess and bigger than life things. I don't know. I mean, well.
I think with them it's a facade, though, to a certain extent.
A lot of it is.
Yeah, yes. They rent money. I didn't even know that was a thing till I saw a documentary.
Yeah.
You see these videos, and it's like, here's $100,000. That's rented.
Yeah.
Like someone paid $2,000 for you to show up with a suitcase with $100,000. It's like, you're kidding.
Well, Tom will be the first to tell you this because he's Mr. Hollywood. There's money out there that in small print says Motion Picture Association of America or something like that. It's movie money. But you have to read the small print to see that it's actually movie money.
Yeah.
And, if you're ever taking a lot of $100 bills for somebody for a high, for selling a car or something, especially those of you who live in California, you might want to take a real close look at those bills to make sure it doesn't say movie money on it.
Use
Motion
Venmo.
Picture Association of America or something.
Use Venmo.
Venmo, yeah.
PayPal. No, I think it's, and I listen to a daily rock talk show on Sirius every day. And this comes up a lot because the host is my age. And he says we're in trouble in respects to who's taking over. And we had this talk off air before the show started because, I had the pleasure of meeting Lemmy.
Yeah.
From Motorhead, and I hung out with him for about 3 hours at a radio station. He was incredibly polite, incredibly cordial and gracious. At the time I smoked, I'd run out, And he was very quick to offer me several of his cigarettes. He had a big thing, I'll never forget, a blue Smirnoff, 100 proof with orange juice, not Jack. I was there. And he had in this huge cup, and he just kept pouring vodka in it. And he goes, have some. And by the time I got to it, it was just vodka. And I had to not wince and be like, ugh. I was young. I was like 19. But he just was so incredibly nice. And over the years, I would see things about him, and everyone would always say,
by the way, the drinking age was 18 when Jay was 19.
Exactly. Yes.
Let's just to clarify, he wasn't contributing to the delinquency of an underage drinker.
Yeah.
No.
You could go cave
just to be clear.
cave. It was 18. Cave to cave to cave, 18. But you would hear these stories about him being gracious and nice and helping people, and I'm like, yeah, I met him when I was really young, and I think 19-year-old eyes see things differently because you don't have the experience in life to see things on a negative as much. And he was genuinely everything people said till the end.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the people you want to kind of look at and go, what would they do? Are the people that you look at and respect because they're nice. I think Paul McCartney's probably very nice. I think if you
he seems like a nice guy.
He would be a nice guy. I love Pete Townsend, but I don't think he'd be a nice guy.
Right. Yeah, I'm feeling you there.
It's like actors. I used to say if I ever met Tom Selleck, he's the type that would drink a beer with you. He wouldn't be
or sell you a reverse mortgage, one or the other.
Yeah, but I don't think he'd be the type to be like, I only drink exclusive champagne.
That glitch in the Matrix was brought to you by DJ Event Planner. They're the sponsor of this show tonight.
That's how much power they have.
In the description of this video, check out their website. And also, while you're at it down there, check out some of our other sponsors that may be featured in the description. Thank you, DJ Event Planner, for being one of our channel sponsors. I was jealous of Jay's water. I had to get water because my mouth was a desert.
This is real. A lot of you have said, hey, are Brian and Jay AI? No. No, we're not AI.
Real stuff, yeah.
I've been hearing, for years. Brian K, for years. I've had to endure.
Even before AI?
Rumors. Yeah.
Eric says he can relate to John Cafferty. That's who he can relate to.
John Cafferty, the Beaver Brown Band for 2000. Thank you. Thank you very much. That would be my answer as well. It's an interesting question. Are you coming up with this on your own? Was this a discussion somewhere? Because it's like...
It was just something I was thinking about the other day, and I thought this would be a really good question to ask.
It's a great question to ask, because I'm still thinking about... And while you were getting water, Tom came in with kind of a room clearer by saying John Lennon. And that's where the discussion you may have come back to when I said, I think if you got him, like most artists or famous people... If you got him off stage, not in a crowd where he had to be him. I have had in my career the pleasure of meeting several famous musicians, and I can tell you there are musicians who will remain nameless, who when they're not being their name, some of them are just downright antisocial. Like... if you're not a hot young girl or something like that, they want nothing to do with you.
I've met some musicians and some famous people that on stage, they're one person off stage. They're very cool. And they're just normal. But once they get on stage, it's almost like the switch flips. And they're goofy. They are the character. It's theater. I mean, it really is.
Oh, 100%. Do you remember the time we had this discussion, and I stand by this 101%? There is nothing better than to go to a small club and catch a band that was famous or was big. Because you will see very quickly into the first song why. Because they have a certain swagger. And it's not manufactured. It's not false. They just have an ability to command a stage. And it's the bands that you go see that there's 100 people and they play like it's Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And they have that it factor. That's the only thing I can describe it as, is it's like an it factor. and they know how to run a stage. And as to your point exactly, Brian, it's a performance. It's theater. It's acting.
The first time I remember experiencing this firsthand was probably in the very early 90s. I went to a show as a guest of the band. I went to go see The Time because I had a friend who was an acquaintance of Monty Moore, who was the little short white guy, keyboard player in the band. Wrote Janet Jackson's Pleasure Principle. Good dude.
Nice.
Just a genuinely nice guy. Well, he had us on the guest list. There were 2 shows. And long story short, when the show was over, we went up in the sound booth of all places to hang out. And Jelly Bean's up there, and Jerome, and Morris, and, the whole band's up there. Monty, of course. Monty was talking to us. But what the guys were talking about were their kids' Little League games and soccer practice. There was just the most normal guys in the world. And they're like this dangerous funk band, from the movie Purple Rain, but they're just like these normal people. Super people.
Let me ask you, because the artist I'm going to mention. If I asked you to describe what you think Al Jorgensen of Ministry would be like, you would say probably what?
Well, I mean, Al is outrageous.
Right. He's outrageous. Maybe aggressive.
And Al Jorgensen, for those of you who don't know, Ministry started off as almost like a gothy synth pop band with a theron, the woo. Yeah. And they eventually they went everything from like dance music to industrial dance music to like Slipknot kind of
Stigmata. Psalm 69. I mean, that stuff
just got harder and harder and more aggressive and more. It's just less like the Depeche Mode Tears for Fears thing they started out as.
Nope.
So it was almost like a de-evolution kind of thing instead of a. But yeah, Al. I mean, he's an artist. He's different. I know that he's got to be a little crazy. He has to be.
Right. So I had the pleasure of talking with Al last year.
Yeah.
For about a half an hour.
Right. You were talking about that.
And we didn't talk about sacrificing animals. We didn't talk about pentagrams. Al said to me in a one-to-one conversation, we were talking about other bands and this and that, and he goes, "You know what? This is it. I've had it. I'm just going to finish this tour. I'm going to shave the dreads," because he had dreadlocks. I think he may or may not still have them. His face was all pierced up way before it was popular.
Right.
I'm going to take out the piercings. I'm going to put on a suit, and I'm going to scout players for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I just want to scout high school and college kids that could play hockey for the Blackhawks." And we spent at least a half an hour talking about hockey and players and sports.
Crazy.
Nothing with a pentagram.
Right.
Not once did I see him strap a young lady up to anything and float her above the crowd. And you're like, oh, wow. Not the conversation. Because you expect him to be him. And again, it goes back to what you said earlier. It's the great performers are just that. They're performers, and they're doing their job because their persona. And I think where they run into trouble, and one that comes to mind would be one of his proteges, Marilyn Manson. I think you reach a level where you buy.
Manson was a protege, was he?
Well, when I say
Reznor was.
He was, but then Marilyn Manson is a protege of Trent Reznor. So I'm putting the 6 degrees thing.
Right.
But
influenced
if you're not
by the Godfather of.
Right. It starts here and it comes down that way.
Yeah.
But you
Alice
look
Cooper probably started it all, but
100%.
Neither, yeah.
100%. But you look at him in particular in the last 2 years, he was in and out of court. He's had all these problems. He couldn't do anything. He's put out an album. He's been on like 3 tours in the last year and a half. He's making really good music if you're a fan of his music. But he's doing the one thing that makes the most sense. And this is coming from a friend of his. He's not doing interviews. He's put his head down. He is working, and that's it. He's not messing around. He's not selling the sizzle. He's just delivering on what he should deliver on. And I think it's a good example of you can fall out of grace and then make your way back. And we love that story. We love the,
Yeah.
And I kind of always hated that. The cover of the newspaper was always, I did all these terrible things. I beat people. I did all these terrible things. But one day I woke up and I found a higher being, and now look at me, I'm great. Because we love that comeback. We love the fall from grace and now you've worked hard. Nobody wants to hear, I work 4 jobs, I take care of my family, I don't screw up, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. Nobody cares. So
you've heard of Peeping Tom. We had Sleeping Tom.
Tom is floating around right now. He might be channeling John Lennon for all we know. I mean, he did mention him.
Probably is. Or Catching Flies, one or the other. So, Brian, you've had some time to think about it. Did you come up with anybody?
Oh, no.
If he's reading that comment, I know what he's
No, I was looking at something else.
Oh.
Well, you're talking about artists being down to earth and stuff. I had the pleasure of meeting a couple 80s artists a few years ago.
Can I try to be psychic? Can I attempt to put on? Wait a second. Hold on. Were they women?
The great Mondo. You got to put the hat on.
I've even had the light come down for this.
You get a turban like Carson did.
I'm just going to throw names
to your
out.
head.
Debbie Gibson and Tiffany. The lights have come on, telling me I'm right.
Yes, they are. You're
and Taylor Dane.
Taylor Dane.
Taylor Dane.
Can I take my hat off?
She's still hot.
I like the hat, but you can take it off.
It's too tight. When I met Debbie Gibson, she seemed very genuine. I know she lived the rock star life, if you want to say so, back in the 90s and late 80s, early 90s.
Sure.
And she was pushed in and out of limos constantly, shoved through crowds, and now she's doing her own thing. But she's not putting on an act on stage now. She's 100% genuine. She loves what she does, and she's still kicking it to this day. She hasn't put anything new out in the last couple of years, but
well, and I'm not dropping names, but I have an associate. I'm not going to say a friend. We're not buds. Well, we're sort of buds. We text and talk. He just worked with her in Vegas, DJ Ashba.
Okay.
And he did a story on his Instagram about Debbie Gibson being at his studio. And I'm like, what's Debbie Gibson doing there? And they were doing something, a project of some kind. So it's good to see that she's not only being genuine in herself, but she's being relevant to, let me try this. I've never really done this. Let me try that. Let me try, I think she's got a great voice and she has a good catalog. Why not come out and try different things like that? So I give her a lot of respect.
Well, she had a Show Tunes album. It was a cover album, and she was on Broadway before. So she is a multi-talented. She is, and she did Grease. She was Sandy in Grease.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I think in the Australian version of Grease.
Wow, wait. Time out.
Right, yeah.
So the English girl played the girl in Grease in Australia, which was played by the Australian girl.
The American girl
when it was an American. I just want to be
the
clear.
American girl played the Australian girl in Australia, and the Australian girl
played the American girl in America. Okay, yeah. Just so we're clear. Okay, good. Now I know what time it is.
Nobody was English.
Nobody was hurt. No actors were harmed.
They all
in the
spoke
filming.
English, though. They all did speak it. Yeah.
I actually met Debbie Gibson many years ago too in New York City when she was released that Broadway albums. So I thought that I had no cell phone at the time, so there was no pictures. But
was she nice right off the street?
Yeah, she was nice. And she was at an expo in New York City, and she was promoting her album and a karaoke machine of all things.
Wow.
Debbie Gibson songs on it.
I will say this: any type of interaction that you may have with someone, like you say, don't meet your heroes. I don't think that that's a real reflection on who they are, because they're human, and everybody has a bad day, and everybody can be in a hurry. I mean, it's completely a different thing, but I've talked about this with Jay, with my car. I've got a 65 Mustang. I live in Wisconsin, where most of that stuff rusted away 50 years ago.
Yep.
But I drive it around, it's rust-free. So if I take that car to the grocery store, which I do, I always allow time for people to come up and ask questions and check it out, because it's kind of for everybody, you know. It's not for me; it's for everyone to enjoy. But I take the time to do that. But if you are a rock star and you're trying to take your family, you know, to Red Lobster, and everybody's bugging you, they might not be themselves when they're telling you, "Hey, man, look, just please don't right now." It's not welcome, but that's not a reflection as to who they are. That's just, you know, a person in a uncomfortable situation, I think.
I think a lot of fans, and I totally understand this, and there's a certain amount of it I agree with. There's a certain sense of you owe me.
Yeah.
From a fan. Yeah. I paid for a ticket. I bought the album. I had the poster. I waited in line, and now I get to meet you. So you owe me this. And I think it's a time, like you say, it's a timing thing.
Yeah.
You know, but
I don't think it's a reflection of who they are. You know,
but at the same time, I think most people, if I gave you the option tomorrow morning, you can wake up and be you. And when you walk out your door and get in your car and go buy, you know, Starbucks or groceries, whatever, life is the same. Or you get up, and when you walk out the door, people are taking photos of you. People are telling you they love you. People are telling you you're important to them. They want your autograph. They want your photo. They want whatever. I think a lot of people that have never experienced that would probably enjoy it.
For a minute.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's in small doses.
For a minute.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the only experience I've had with that personally is at DJ conferences.
Oh, you're a rock star at DJ conferences.
When I go, everybody wants to talk to me. I mean, I'm anonymous walking around my city. You know, nobody knows who I am.
I remember that.
DJ conference. Yeah, it's like everybody knows.
Everybody knows you.
It's exhausting, man. You can't.
When I hung out with you in Milwaukee, nobody knew you on the street.
No. But if I'm in Atlantic City, or if I'm in Vegas, or, you know, at some conference, I constantly get people come up to me. And it's cool. And I got to allow them time. Because if I don't allow them time, because I'm not doing this full time all year round, I'm just doing it at conferences, I'm a jerk. So I have to take the time to talk to them. I want to talk to them, but sometimes I also have to pee.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, sometimes.
Again, Proofy's not
I'm
AI.
sorry, I'll be right back. And I've done it. And I've come back. Well, they're not here anymore. Okay, on to the next thing. And then I hear later on social media what a bad person I am, because I didn't even take the time to say hi to them because I ran off. I had to pee. Come on. I mean, it's got to be weird for celebrities, and I can empathize because of that. It's not I think there's kind of the same level, but
man, there's a feeling. Pulse and I were in Atlantic City, and we were at Starbucks, and a guy walked up to us. This is the God's honest truth, with a pen and a T-shirt.
I know.
And weird. Said, "Can I get your autograph on my shirt?" And I was like, And the part that hurt the most was he had a black Sharpie and a black T-shirt, and I'm like,
where?
But I was like so happy to. I was like, once in my life, somebody asked me, "Can you sign this?" I mean, we take for granted. You know, we just did the last big show was Max. I bet you I took. I'm not exaggerating here. I bet you I took 30, 35 selfies with people that were like, "Hey, can I take a selfie with you?"
The selfie is a new autograph, and I don't mind.
It feels so good, and you're like, and then they'll say to you, like, "I saw your video and I changed this, or I did this because you said that, or I saw this review. I really just want to thank you for that." And I'm like, "No, man, thank you because if you didn't see it,
thank you. Who are you?
Yeah,
what do you do? Tell me about
who are you?
You know, this is." No, I do. I mean, I want to know everybody's story. You know, they know me.
100%.
Who are you? You know, who are you who are watching me?
I think that's the joy of, and what it speaks to, Brian, is it speaks to the positive impact being the most important aspect. I mean, there are artists that I have met and just gone up to them and said, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know, this meant a lot to me. It came at a bad time. Thank you." And I'm not the first or the last that will ever tell them that.
Right.
But it's the artists that give you that smile that says, "I understand, thank you."
Right.
That you think the next time you come to my town, yeah, man, I'm buying a ticket and supporting you. Because the reality is, we're not talking about songs and artists that nobody knows. We're talking about famous people. And the only way to get famous is money.
Mm.
And without me buying a ticket or a download,
well, support.
That was support, and that goes away very quickly. And I think that, the new trend in this century has been the meet and greet. And I think it's a great thing. I really do. It's like, you got a couple $100 burning a hole in your pocket, and your band from the 80s that you loved is playing a 1,000-cap club.
It means a lot to people.
You can get a photo with them and talk to them and ask them those questions.
It means a lot to people.
It means a ton. But it's also the fact that, and where it gets weird is social media. There's no artist I can't go on Instagram or Twitter, X, right now and send a direct message to and feel like I connected.
Yeah.
I did that show in Boston back in, when was it? February. And one of the artists being given an award was someone I was a massive fan of in the 80s and still am. I got to play music to bring him on stage and then bring him off. I got to pick the music. And I went up to him and I just said, "Hey, Charlie, I'm going to do this, this, and this. If you have 30 seconds, he's like, "Yeah, man, what do you need?" I said, "I just need to tell you what the music means to me, how many times I've seen you in concert, this, like 20 things all at once, like a little, fangirl freaking out." And I could see in his eyes, he was genuinely like, "Wow, thank you so much. That means so much to me."
Right.
And it just instilled in me, wow, I'm so glad I'm still a fan. I'm so glad I'm still playing your music for other people. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware of my Twitch following, the audiences I play to. There's 8
or 9 people,
10 people sometimes. Yeah, no,
crazy.
It's vast.
11 one night. Yeah.
Oh no, I had 12 once.
12. Geez.
That was a fluke. I think someone got lost and ended up like, oh, I thought this was a bar. Oh, it's a grocery store. I think it was one of those situations.
Yeah, could be.
No, but I think it's interesting that, you want to feel that they are what you think they are. Like, because this song meant so much to you. And I think it's, like I said, meeting your heroes can be dangerous. It's happened to me. And I've walked away shaking my head like, I really wish that didn't happen. Because they were on a pedestal. And whether that's fair or not, and I'm sure there's some viewers of this show that will say, "Why would you ever put someone like that up on a pedestal?" I don't know, because they made you feel a certain way by putting words together with a melody, and you listen to it.
When you are, I mean, okay, so people like us who love music, who really love music, might be kind of like the people a long time ago before pop music were lovers of art.
Right.
Just really appreciated art or poetry or novels or short stories or whatever. it's just, this artistic expression from this person meant something to me. And I really like it. And I enjoy this author or this painter or the sculptor. It's all the same. I mean, when something moves you, it moves you. And when you, I get it. Whether it's a, what word am I looking for? Like it's a, three-dimensional kind of thing, or if it's a sound, an audio thing. You get it, and it moves you, and to have the opportunity to thank somebody is cool. To 100% them, I think, for things, I think is weird when it's not the appropriate time, but yeah.
And I think excitement overshadows sometimes what in the normal world would make you think standing next to a celebrity at a urinal is not the right time to shake their hand.
Yeah.
Well, but yet the excitement might I mean, I think what we're trying to say is that people who need people are the luckiest people in the world.
And, well, I will also just say this, because I don't want to make it sound like that I've always had it together like this. I have screwed up with celebrities many times. I've done the wrong thing. I speak from experience.
He didn't ask for an autograph when he first met me 18 years ago. That shows he's human. He's infallible. He's fallible.
Excuse me. I would be cool like you and mute, but I only have one hand and I have to use it to cover my mouth so I don't go all over your camera.
It's all good.
Saying.
I, too, will only use this one hand to pick up my water.
And on that note, thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging with me tonight. It means a lot. Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa to all of you.
Joe Bonamassa. Oh, did we say that? Oh,
we said that. Yeah, Joe
Bonamassa. Kay went to the drink pretty quick. Must be in Texas.
Yeah.